Greetings, this is the Grumpy Old Slan, and today we're taking a look at the very first issue of Amazing Stories, published in April 1926. So the cover shows some people skating in front of what appears to be mountains on top of which are ships, and we see what I guess is Saturn, at least a planet with rings, in the background. We also see that there are stories by H.G. Wells, Jules Verne, and Edgar Allan Poe in this issue. Clearly a lot of reprints here. Looking at the table of contents, there are only 6 stories, one of which is a serial, although it's not mentioned here. We start with an editorial by Hugo Gernsback, titled A New Sort of Magazine. If you remember the early days of Weird Tales, they also billed themselves as a new sort of magazine. They were going for what they called weird fiction, things that were shocking, whereas Hugo Gernsback is going for what he has dubbed scientifiction and what we today call science fiction. He defines it and he invites people to give their feedback so that they can publish the best magazine to suit their tastes. Looking at the stories, we have the first half of Off on a Comet by Jules Verne, and this is a bit of a space fantasy. Part of the surface of the Earth is transferred to the surface of a comet, and we see the people who survive this event explore their new world, which has part of Earth on it, also some other new landmarks. It takes them quite a while to figure out exactly where they are. In fact, at the end of the first half, the main characters have encountered somebody who seems to be a scientist of some sort and who may shed more light on it, except he hasn't yet so far. We'll find out in the next issue if they do figure out they're on a comet. Jules Verne's was always a good storyteller. This is maybe not his best, or certainly not his best known. It was quite the page turner for me and I quite enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to the second half of this. And it's followed by The New Accelerator by H.G. Wells. This is a story of a man who invents some sort of drug or chemical substance that accelerates human metabolism, allowing the two characters to move at speeds such that their clothes become singed because of air resistance, and everything around them seems frozen in place and barely moving. Of course, the effect is temporary. Another solid tale by H.G. Wells, also quite enjoyable. It is followed by The Man from the Atom by G. Peyton Wertenbaker. And while it might be thought that this is an original story, it was actually a reprint because it was published only a few years before in another magazine edited by Gernsback. So he just decided to reuse this story. And this is a story of a man who volunteers to a friend's experiments that will allow him to either shrink or increase in size. And he will increase his size to tremendous amounts. Apparently, as he increases in size, his mass does not increase, but apparently time appears to flow faster for him. He will be big enough to literally leave our universe. When he shrinks back, he has lost track of where Earth is and finds another planet that he can stay on. This was kind of a weird one. I kind of enjoyed it. Next is The Thing from Outside by George Allan England, which is a lovely little tale involving cosmic horror. I've done a reading of it and I'll link to it. While I don't know George Allan England, he is billed as a well-known magazine writer. He's written quite a bit of short fiction for magazines in the decades before this, though many were not science fiction, others were. I quite enjoyed this tale. Next is The Man Who Saved the Earth by Austin Hall. This was the big disappointment. First of all, the title gives away that whatever dangers happen will be averted. The writer just keeps adding action in the hopes of getting excitement, telling you should feel that the stakes are high by literally telling you that the stakes are high, which doesn't engage you at all. He's also very unclear as to what could have destroyed the Earth. It's very confused, and if you're going to read this issue, I would skip this tale in order to read the facts in the case of Mr. Valdemar by Edgar Allan Poe, another classic Poe tale involving mesmerism and hypnotizing somebody who is near death, and the rather gruesome results of this experiment. This is one of Poe's better tales. I highly recommend it. Overall, it's a solid issue that mostly relies on reprints to be this strong. I assume this is a strategy in order to gain a lot of readers and subscribers so that they can then publish more original fiction. There's a few original pieces here. Hopefully future issues will have more. Although the teaser on the table of contents billing the next issue announces A Trip to the Center of the Earth by Jules Verne, The Crystal Egg by H.G. Wells, and the conclusion to Off on a Comet by Jules Verne. I do note they also are billing a story by Murray Leinster called The Runaway Skyscraper. Heard about this story, but I've never read it. And there's another story called Whispering Ether by Charles S. Wolfe. I don't know this writer nor the story, and hopefully it will be good. This has been the Grumpy Old Slan, looking at the April 1926 issue of Amazing Stories, and I'll see you next time.